My guest today, for the second time running, is a seasoned sales leader turned coach. He's a man who's led $100 million teams. He's trained thousands, I think 5,000 people. And more importantly, he's hosted something like 700 and yumpty-tum episodes of the Exceptional Sales Leader podcast. And if you haven't listened to it, then you're an idiot. Go and do it now. The link is down below. Do it now. Bookmark it. Off you pop. He's had a crazy career. He's worked with Optus, he's worked with Telstra, other global brands, and what he's doing now is he's helping sales managers leading with clarity, with consistency, and with confidence. And with that, I'm telling you, welcome to Leadership That Sells. We're here because most sales leaders think that they are busy building a high-performance team, and they're not. What they're doing is they're managing a collection of golfers, all playing golf, but on their own course. And because you're treating them like some football team, trying to get them all to work towards one goal, you're bleeding revenue. Your A players are holding their tactics. They're all trying to win President Club. Your middle tier is stagnant because the knowledge from the A players never transfers. And if your top rep quits tomorrow, their secret sauce just walks out the door with them, right? That, my friends, is not a leadership problem. That is a systemic intellectual property risk. Now, what I try to do is not just train managers. We're trying to install the practical team, parallel team operating system. That's like a team audit to try and capture that unwritten how those top performers de-risk your revenue engine and turn your sales force from this collection of individuals into a scalable dynasty. If you're ready to stop relying on your heroes and start building a system, check out your risk level with our sales IP audit at the Practical Leadership Academy. With that, Darren Mitchell, thank you very much for joining me, sir.
Paul, it's an absolute pleasure. What an introduction, mate. And that was straight off the top of your head. How good's that?
It's miraculous. It's miraculous. It's almost as if I knew what I was talking about, man.
Mate, you were a master orator.
That's another word for a bullshit artist extraordinaire who hasn't been caught out yet, isn't it?
Well, it's we're sort of cut from the same cloth, although we've got a slightly different accent.
That's it.
My wife says exactly the same when her friends and when her colleagues ask, "So, what does your husband do?" And she says, "He's a bullshit artist."
Then the Scottish version of that is like it's a patter merchant, right? It'd be somebody who's going taking a barrel of dodgy produce down into the marketplace and get your bananas here, they're ripe. It's like what's it? I can't remember, the bunco merchants. They're trying to sell pink salmon. It's not pink salmon. It's white salmon. It's albino salmon. It's called. It's albino salmon. Totally.
It's just been left in the sun for a while.
It's ripe. It's ripe. Right. I got a question.
Great to be here, mate.
Ah, man.
Great to be here.
Good. I wouldn't. There's nobody I'd rather try this out on. And if you're listening, I'm about to try something and work here with Darren on a brand new shiny idea that I'm trying to work out here, and it's based on the fact that we have to go back in time and think that most managers of any team have no clue because they've never been trained. It's something like you get your first training 12 years into the management job, which then means that all you're doing is what you've seen other people do, which then means that what other people have done has not been trained for 12 years. So nobody knows what they're doing. There's no apprenticeships. There's no concept of how you do this job. Then you talk at sales manager level, and sales managers, sales leaders have done what's been done to them, which is bad. And nobody's ever given it any thought. You think that you're trying to build this cohesive team and have people do group hugs, which isn't going to work. Okay. You think you should be putting competition in their leaderboards, competition, which isn't going to work. And there's reasons why not. And then there's just so many things you're doing wrong. When your job is to try and facilitate a purchase, not push a sale, But then you take the step up, and the step up is when people talk about talent a lot, but the harder question I think is about asset value, right? So bear with me on this. If you're number one revenue generator, your top salesperson, walked out the door, would lose their pipeline, right? Okay, we know that.
Totally. Yeah.
But would you lose their method? Is this the special secret sauce of the how, the thing that they know how to do? Is it codified in any way, shape, or form that the rest of your team could use tomorrow? Or is it locked in their head? Okay. From people you see, which is which? Codified, locked in their head.
It's a really interesting question, and I think there's elements of both. What I do see is, and you mentioned it before, parallel teams, and the fact that sales. I've always thought that sales teams are a little bit of a fallacy anyway, because they're a bunch of individual contributors, and you described it really well. You've got a bunch of golfers that are trying to get the best score. They're competing against each other, but you've got a sales manager who's like let's just say, the group coach of the bunch of golfers, trying to get everybody to try and get to the 18th hole with a reasonable score.
Yeah.
The interesting thing about the codification is, if you ask a lot of people who are, let's just say, high performers within sales or in any discipline, and ask them the question of how they do things the way they do, very often they'll have no idea, because they've got this level of unconscious competence. So it's almost, in some cases, impossible to try and deconstruct the strategy, because they don't even know what they've done, because they've just either got this intuitive skill set, or they've seen something and it's just become a habit, but they can't necessarily articulate it. So when somebody leaves, yeah, we've lost a great individual contributor, but we also lose some of the information as to how they do it, because often they don't know themselves how they've done it.
So
The other problem, of course, is they get promoted, and you talk about the asset. We've now lost an asset that is revenue generating, because we give them the bestowed a title of leader, and they now have to drive the sales team, and the executives are expecting the team to basically repeat the behavior that they've been generating. And when it doesn't happen, they think, what's going on? Well, the guy doesn't know how he was successful, so how can he teach his team how to be successful? Because there's no model.
And he's got no clue about how you lead teams,
No,
right? So
because you said it.
double failure.
Training 12 years after.
Exactly, it's a double failure. So you've lost not only your top performer, who's now sitting trying to lead a sales team he doesn't know how to do, trying to pass on his worldly wisdom, which, let's say he's an analytical person and he's trying to pass this on to half of his team who are relationship types, okay? Not going to work. And you've lost your pipeline, you've lost your top performer, he doesn't know how he's supposed to be doing this, and he's going to piss off the rest of his sales team, and they're going to quit. Congratulations.
Correct. And guess what? In the process, Paul, because he sees he's got the pipeline that's drying up, he now turns back into the super salesperson. So he tries to actually get the numbers up at the expense of everybody else in the team. So he becomes the super salesperson.
Of course, which typically is the player coach, because that's the most common route to failure. It's not the most, I think it is probably one of the more common sales management types, but it's genuinely the more common route to failure. If somebody's carrying their own quota, end of the quarter, end of the year, they're going to, I'll just lean in and put my shoulder to the wheel and I'll make it happen, says the hero. No,
That's right.
It's just no. So my challenge, I think, is how do you then help those people? How do you help those organizations with those people capture and codify that knowledge when the people you're asking, you go to them and say, I'll interview my top salespeople. Fill your boots, because they have no fucking clue. Sorry. They have no idea how they do what they do. So my concept here, most organizations are now recording calls. Okay?
Yeah.
You give me 50 calls with a mixture of your top performers and your middle performers, and then using the miracles of artificial intelligence for what she is actually meant for, content creation not being one of them, by the way. Please stop doing that. Is you can extract the very essence and the framework that the high performers are using and pull out the stuff that they do that the middle performers do not. Right? And that is the basis of your codified playbook. But it's an evolving playbook. Okay. So what I'm working out, if it's a value, would be something like a chief playbook officer, or somebody who would come along, me, for a enormous retainer and work out how to do this with you. capture that, build that, and keep the damn thing up to date,
Mm,
together with putting those elements in play that need to be there, like this is how you manage a sales team, you fool. Okay.
mm.
That sort of stuff. So that's kind of my thinking there.
I love that. And what's your thoughts? Because there's a lot of obviously there's a lot of salespeople that run their sales calls, discovery calls, qualification calls, closing calls on Teams, on Zoom. Um, how do you do that face to face? Would it be having them recorded, getting customer permission to record those calls for coaching and training purposes only, so you can actually codify that? But I think it's a great idea because if the person who is really good at closing or really good at taking a customer through a buying cycle or a sales cycle, if they don't know how they do it, they just intuitively do it. Having somebody like you and an AI engine to break it down and look for patterns and similarities will start to then extract what are the key milestones. At what point in the sales process, based on certain language patterns, does the salesperson perhaps offer an assumptive close or
Yeah.
an alternative or go and close the sale. So you start to see some consistency. Um, and that would help, I guess, the organization try to understand what does make this elite salesperson, this exceptional salesperson, better than, I guess, the average, and what do they do that the others don't. So you
Yeah.
can start to build some gap closure strategies.
So that I think is how you start to protect that organization's IP, how you extract it from the head of the top salesperson. Because if you
Yeah.
think of the models that we've had to date, now your question is basically how do I record something face to face? I haven't had anybody push back when I put my phone on the table and say, "Do you mind if I record this?"
Yeah.
Just
Okay.
to get the trick, because I'm getting a
Yeah.
transcript. Of course, you're getting a
Yeah.
transcript. You get it too. I'll share it. No
Yeah.
problem. And it's
Yeah.
just it's speed. It's you won't have to explain yourself to anyone else because I've got my notes, and I can
Yeah.
pay full. Like I can give you my full undivided attention is the phrase that I use.
Yeah. I love
I'm
that.
not going to try and make notes. There you go.
Yeah.
So you've got the thing we're trying to do with this middle, this unloved 60% that's providing like 10% of your results versus the 10% that's providing maybe 80% of your results is we try to move them up the chain, right? And we do this. So there's companies that do things like President's Club. So it's the top performers get to go to Maui
Mm.
for the week or something. So
Yeah.
you put this highly competitive situation into play. And guess what? I've done 5 years worth of research on 5 years worth of CRM data from a mid-sized company, and they never move. The
Mm.
performers in the middle, I saw, I think it was like 80 odd performers on this team. One of them got better. One.
One.
One out of the middle bunch got better. The rest of the top performers remained the top performers. People
Yeah.
who are good are good. So
Yeah.
why didn't the middle ones get better?
Mm.
And I think they didn't get better because the top performers didn't share. The criteria for membership of the President's Club for getting a suntan on the beach in Maui with your husband or wife was, did you hit your number?
Yeah.
Yes, 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 I did. I did. So what we need to do is add the second part to that, which is it's the coach's badge. And
Mm.
I'm not asking you to turn into a coach. I'm just
Yeah.
asking you to turn into somebody who shares.
Yeah.
So the second criteria is where you voted most sharing person, did you add the greatest number of things to our collective playbook? Did you contribute to other ways of doing things as a whole? So
Yeah.
we can capture this programmatically, but then institutionally, we can change the mindset to say, I'm not just going to win, I'm going to share my ideas. I'm not going to, don't need to be a coach because that's not the
Mm.
gig here, but this worked for me. If you can make it work for you, fill your boots. And you then change the way that you have your meetings as a salesperson, as well as a sales leader.
Yeah, absolutely. How do you think, and just thinking out loud here, how do you think big organizations who are used to that internal competitive tension, particularly chief revenue officers who perhaps are quote unquote old school, where they think, you know what, the President's Club is designed for the creme de la creme. We want to actually create the internal mechanisms to get the internal competition so that we can actually blast our numbers out of the water. And maybe the top 2% or the top 5% or the top 1%, depending on the size of the sales force, are the ones that get through. how do you think they will go in terms of changing the narrative a little bit to say we still want to drive the number, but we're going to put some weighting on your ability to now share how you get the number. What's your methodology? What's your thinking behind it? Do you reckon there's an appetite out there? Because I fully concur with that, right? Because we need more and more salespeople sharing how they go about it, and we need more and more sales leaders driving their sales team to be more based on servitude and sharing and helping their team members, not just looking at what's in it for them.
There's a couple of angles there, I think. Now, one is that you, as you said, you weight the membership of the President's Club. You just add this concept I'm calling the coach's badge. So it's like,
Yep.
you're in the Boy Scouts, you get to have a badge sewn on your jerkin that says, I helped out, right?
Yep.
So top performer is the top performer, but top performer can only be in the President's Club if they are also a top sharer. Okay, so
Yep.
that's how you do it. And then the thing for the sales leaders themselves is to tell them to do something that is really weird and wacky. And your sales meetings, right? You have these, let's say you've got a team of 6 or 8 sellers and you get them all together and you publicly berate them for lack of performance and drill into their details and their deals. Basically, people are there in a queue waiting to be punished. And they're
Yep.
thinking, oh, when is it my turn? When's it my turn? Oh, great, it's my turn. Here we go, yippee-ki-yay. Lay into me, why don't you? Why hasn't it closed? And my concept is to shift that and do that privately. You're investigating data in your CRM. So you're saying, this deal you've got here, it's been in stage 2 for 15 days. That's 5 days longer than normal. Convince me it's going to close.
Mm,
That's what I want to know. I'm investigating the
mm.
data. I'm interrogating the data. But in your sales meeting, nobody else gives a shit about that. I
No,
don't care about your
no,
deals. So I'm sitting here waiting for
no.
you to be punished and waiting for my turn to be punished. Why don't we flip it and we say the sales meeting is there to learn together, right? So if you're brave enough and eventually you
Mm,
get there, this is what I didn't do well this week. This is a challenge I had. Can anybody help me with it? This
yeah,
is what worked for me this week. Does anybody want to try it? And
yeah,
that again also then starts to feed into your rolling playbook of things that bloody
mm,
work.
yeah. I love that. I love that. As you were talking there, Paul, I'm thinking, man, do sales leaders still do the individual interrogation and in front of their entire team? Because I
Oh,
was
you
always
can.
brought, man. One of the things that I always did for my own sales team, and I'm going back a few years now, was I always used to remember criticize in private but praise in
Praise in
public.
public.
So unless there's something that applies to the entire team, never single out a person trying to make an example of them in front of everybody else. Have that conversation in
Mm.
private. I mean, I just don't get that. And maybe that comes back to the fact that, as you mentioned before, the average sales leader doesn't get training until they're 12 years into their into their role, which
Having
means
spent
I'm
the
glad.
last, yeah, they spent the last 12 years doing what didn't work for the last person who had 12 years of experience doing what didn't work for the person before them, right? 'Cause-
Yeah, yeah,
And I think the big thing there is that people are then they're mixing the business inspection with their rep development.
yeah,
You've got a one-to-one with somebody, maybe.
yeah.
Even if you don't have a sales meeting, I don't know why, but let's say you don't
Mm,
have a sales meeting, your one-to-one then turns into just the business inspection, or maybe you
mm.
try and coach at the same time. And when you do that, what I find is that kills your truth of your forecast because your reps are hiding the bad news to avoid the lecture. It
Or
poisons.
they're trying to justify.
Yes, exactly. So you separate them out. You've got the sales team meeting, which is a learning gig.
Yeah,
You've got
yeah.
the deal inspection, the business inspection, and then you've got your one-to-one where you're doing the
Mm,
coaching, you're doing the personal development. And I'm
yeah,
adding things into the sales leader's job here because it
yeah.
is their gig, it's what they're supposed to be doing.
That's exactly right. I think that's I'm going to say a common based approach that is not common. And if you talk to most sales leaders, and if you ask most sales leaders in terms of how they run their meetings, well, I'm staggered. I'd love your take on this. I'm staggered at the number of sales leaders that actually say, I very rarely have a one-on-one.
It is the one lever you have. You have so
Yeah.
few levers to move your business forward. I
Yeah.
mean, in any executive position, right? And a sales leader is
Yeah.
an executive position because your job is to direct and execute,
Absolutely.
allocate capital.
Absolutely.
You've got so few levers you can pull. And
Yeah.
having a one-on-one where you talk about, you connect with the individual, you're coaching them, you're moving them forwards day by day, just on a
Mm.
shared sheet, just have a shared Google Doc. What did we do last week? Just write it down.
Yeah.
Talk about it.
Yeah.
It's insane. Half an hour a week. It's your bloody job. Find the time. That is your time. You shouldn't be
Well,
doing anything
unless
more.
you've got a exactly right. Unless you've got a team of like 20 people, there's no excuse not to spend half an hour per person per week where you're coaching and developing your team. You can also have a separate one where you do the interrogation of the numbers. But what's really interesting is we know through, I guess, lots of research has been done by a lot of different organizations that coaching of salespeople is one of, if not the most important lever to drive higher performance. But it's also the first thing that either gets rescheduled or cancelled.
Yeah.
And often it's because we're not setting up the sales leaders with the tools on how to coach and even give them some basic definition as to what is it to coach. It is not to tell them what to do. It's to actually help develop them and hopefully teach them resourcefulness, not give them the answers.
What's your favorite coaching questions?
My favorite coaching questions.
Everyone's got some. I've got the same. I've used the same like four or five since forever, basically.
I just like using really basic questions, such as, what are you looking to achieve? What are you looking to achieve in the next 30 days? What do you love about your role? What are some of the challenges you're currently experiencing? All general open-ended questions
Yeah.
that encourages the person to start talking. It's not, hey, your numbers look a bit behind. What's your gap closure strategy? I don't ask those questions. They're very conversational.
Love it. I love it. God. So listen, the last thing here is about going back to this President's Club thing. So
Mm,
when, in your experience, then we're spending, collectively millions of pounds on this President's Club thing to try and reward
yeah.
the result, the revenue. But again, I think it just incentivizes the top players to hoard their secrets so they can win again next year. What do you think we can do? What's the way you would incentivize those top people to do that, to share that how, to do that coaching badge thing?
Man, that's a really interesting question because it points into, I guess, the motivational factors that drives a lot of these salespeople. And I reckon it might even start before that, and when we start to think about the recruiting of these people in the first place in terms of what drives them. Um, a lot of these guys are extrinsic, and I've seen it myself in companies that I've worked with, where they're motivated by running across stage, getting the big trophy, right? The President's Club trophy, the big photo with the CEO, all about me. Um, you know what my answer is? My answer is maybe we need to start thinking about what are the characteristics that we want in a high performing sales team that is balanced between the numbers, but also do we have people who are more geared around serving others and helping others? Now, that might sound a
Mhm.
bit motherhoody, right? And I get that because people listen to this and saying, wow, you got to drive the number and you got to drive the profit, drive. So we've got to have internal competition. But as a sales leader, as a builder of teams, what are we looking for to bring in to this organization, to this team that will create the foundation for sustainable success? So, how do I get somebody that comes in and wants to leave the team in a better place than when they found it? And how can I measure people on how they contribute to others and take something away from the personal performance or the personal reward? Now, whether we, here's a concept, maybe we don't have a president's club. Maybe we have something else. Maybe we say it's not about the number because if you look at what motivates most salespeople,
It's not money.
research will say it ain't the big
Mm.
dollars and it ain't the big price. It's nice to have and I'll take it. But really, what changes? And you said it before. You're doing all the CRM investigation over a period of time, nothing really changes.
No. No.
So is it worth having a president's club in the first place?
Do you want something even more controversial? And if you're listening out there, nobody can listen. You have to turn off the podcast right now. Okay, don't listen. Maybe we shouldn't pay commission.
There you go. Now, that's an interesting one because there's going to be people out there that literally have dropped the microphone and say, Paul, Darren, how can you possibly say that? Don't you realize that salespeople are driven by the almighty dollar, by the almighty pound? But there are more and more organizations now who are building great cultures, great sustainable performing cultures where they do not have individual commissions.
Yeah.
They have a set of KPIs. A lot of those KPIs are based on the contribution to the team,
Mm.
contribution to the business, customer satisfaction type results, not just bottom line or top line revenue.
Yeah.
And there's going to be schools of thought for both. And I think there's got to be, it's going to take a paradigm shift because many people probably listening to this who are in big business, big sales organizations that have been around for a while probably don't know any better because they've gone through the system where there's always been the top 10%, there's always been commissions. So it's what they get used to. So it's a bit of a paradigm shift for many people, but it's worth exploring. It's worth thinking, you know what, does that mean we can now expand the pool of talent that we can bring in, where we don't bring in people who are driven by attack, win at all costs, get the number so I can get the accolades, and more towards how can we make a contribution that might reduce the number of maybe profit or top line revenue, but we have a longer term sustainable, better communication and better conversation and better relationship with our customers and all the key stakeholders. It's worth thinking about.
I think you would probably be able to research it or find it in things like family firms, family
Mm,
businesses, something like that. Because if you
yeah,
think most commercial organizations, I don't think you'd find one that would take the risk.
yeah,
You wouldn't take the risk of not paying commission. I mean, it's crazy, huh?
yeah,
Because I
yeah, it
mean,
is.
any incentive program you put in place there is going to get gamed. Of course, it gets gamed, right?
100%.
But
100%.
how if you're going to fake, not fake, but if you're going to play towards getting a particular result, so if you're going to pay me on the number of pink widgets that I present to my customer in the process of a sales process, guess what? I'm going to take a bucket load of pink widgets and I'm going to show them to whoever it's got nothing to do with what my job is. But by God, I'm getting paid for it. I'm going to do it.
That's it. That's it.
Incentives, friction, and
Yeah,
risk management, really, that's it. You can create incentives, you can remove or even create friction, and you have to then deal with the risks that come with that.
you
I
do.
think the reason that you use revenue is because, frankly, you can game it and do whatever the hell you want because I'm going to get more top line dollars through the door.
Yeah.
Good for you for gaming that. Well done. Have a slice. You know, cheese on top.
It's 100% correct. 100% correct. And I mean, if you look at most sales organizations, they've got a history of this. They've always done the same thing. So you've got chief revenue officers who were sales leaders, who were individual contributors, who were maybe customer success managers, who have gone through the system and they know no different.
Yeah.
So when they get into organizations at the top echelons of those organizations, they think we've got to put in an incentive program. We maybe not call it President's Club. We'll call it something else. We'll call it His Majesty's
King's Group.
retreat or something. That's something like that.
Oh, mad.
But we've got to have something. Got to have something.
So,
But it's worth exploring because you think about, I mean, the sales organizations and the sales industry is continuing to evolve, right? And we talked a little bit about AI and how AI is going to play even more of a part in sales. The whole structure of sales teams and our go-to-market strategies may change. So it stands to reason that organizations also need to look at, well, how do we remunerate our teams? How do we incentivize our teams? And how do we measure our teams? Is the old top line, bottom line, profitability, EBITDA type of measurements still relevant? Or can we introduce some other maybe non-hard metrics
mm,
to drive the behaviors we want that will serve us well as an organization well into the future and increase the pool of the type of people that we want in this organization to be of service to the organization that can then lead to clear differentiation against our competitors. So how do we almost lead the industry in that? It's something that a lot of organizations probably need to seriously consider moving forward, rather than I just want a slice of that big pie because they think it's a finite pie.
Well, I think, yeah, the finite pie piece I think speaks more to this the societal and business drivers, which are I've got a quarter, I've got a half year, I've got a year, and the what am I going to measure in
Mm,
your performance that's going to show me a result in a quarter, a half year, a year? Well, nothing for a start, nothing.
yeah,
But I have to at least pretend that that's the case because
yeah,
that's the environment that I'm working with them. And at the
that's
moment,
it.
we're renting our success from these individual heroes. We're
Mm,
renting some magic that's in their head that we don't understand, that they don't understand,
yeah,
rather than going back and building this systemic revenue engine that captures this high performance, that documents the behaviors and then helps you to scale it.
mm, mm, yeah.
Anyway,
Well, going back to what you said in the first place, I think, excuse me, that's the way of analyzing what they do, codifying it, breaking it down, identifying what those key behaviors are, and then training, developing, mentoring, coaching on those behaviors will enable the people who perhaps are the core performers now or who are missing maybe some steps in the process to actually increase their level of education,
yeah.
competence, and through that confidence. It'll be interesting to see what then happens to the top performers as to whether they continue to be the top performers or whether the pool of performers will start to get bigger because we've now got some consistency through the application of those behaviors.
There you go. There you go. Okay. I think we've changed the world. We're done.
Yeah, what a perfect way for sales leaders to start really thinking about launching into 2026.
Uh-huh.
Get rid of President's Club, don't pay commissions, right? And maybe
But don't
start
blame
looking at the pool
me.
of talent
Blame
somewhere
him.
else. That's right. And you can say, well, some Aussie called Darren, he was the one that suggested it.
Brilliant. But I think a decent way to start off the year, at least, is to say, look, we're not just going to pat you in the head when you've done your number. You have to share, right? We're not
Yeah.
just going to hammer you in our sales meetings or your pipeline meetings. We're actually going to coach. We're actually going to learn together. You know, it's
Yeah.
understanding how these sorts of teams, or rather collections of people, because they're not a team, they're a parallel team.
No,
They're not a
they are.
horizontal team where they're doing different things. They're all doing the same thing, but in different pitches.
Yeah, correct.
And
And
so,
it's almost like not collaboration, it's almost like co-opetition. So
yes.
and how do we, because we know that if we want to drive certain behaviors, we've got to put focus on those behaviors.
Mhm.
So you'll get the focus based on the energy you put into certain behaviors. And if sales leaders can start to identify what those behaviors are, bring it and keep it top of mind, literally in every one-on-one conversation, every team conversation, you'll start to get some cut through and you'll
Mhm.
start to get people to say, oh, so are we saying that I'm going to get some global recognition? When I say global, team
Yeah.
recognition for sharing my greatest win or my greatest challenge and unpack that for Paul and the rest of the team, I'm going to get recognition for that. Yeah, that's right. Oh, I'll do more of that. So I'll get a bit of hit of dopamine, bit of serotonin flowing through the brain.
And that, I think, is actually what probably motivates more people than not.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's the pat
yeah,
in the back. It's purpose. It's feeling special.
yeah.
Yes, write me a big ass check. Fine, of course, I love that. But um, the number of people where I can make money, there's quite a lot of them. But the number of people who
Yeah,
actually look after me and think that I'm special and tell other people that I'm special, not stupidly, but just gives me purpose, gives me that ability to improve and feel like I'm developing, feel like I'm growing.
yeah,
Something we all
yeah.
miss. Something we all
Well, it's a perfect time of year, Paul, when you think about it, right? So think about, I mean, there are probably people that listen to this who may not celebrate Christmas, but just the concept of Christmas and we've come off Thanksgiving in the US and it's all about giving.
miss.
And when you think about it, how well do we feel? How good do we feel when we receive a gift from somebody as compared to when we give a gift to somebody and we see the look on their face when they open it, particularly if we've given some thought to that particular gift. We get more satisfaction out of giving, and I don't care who you are, that's a human trait, right? So if we can translate that type of feeling into how do we create that in our sales team, mate, magic can happen. And guess what? The numbers will take care of itself.
That's where we leave it. Magic can happen, and the numbers will take care of themselves. On that profound yet beautifully articulated point, we'll leave you. Darren Mitchell, thank you very much indeed for joining me.
Paul, absolute pleasure, mate. Great to see you again and have a wonderful holiday season and Christmas and enjoy that break.
Absolutely. Happy Christmas.
Cheers, mate.